listening to the Suave Lover podcast with your hosts, Benjamin Ritter and James Amaro. SuaveLover.com, advising gentlemen on the art of romance. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode.
You ever found something to be valuable in your life? Money, fame, women? You ever valued anything ever? Or have you always just sort of said, it's not worth shit?
Everything has some sense of value. I mean, everyone has different ideas of what's value, what is valuable, except for stores. I mean, I walked out with something. What are you doing? I thought it was
worthless?
I thought they were free. The price isn't the price relative? Isn't it what you think it costs?
Yeah. Who are you to judge? Shoplifting is not a crime if I don't believe it is.
But it's also like people can value traits differently, right? Like I can think cheating is not a big deal, and someone else can think cheating is a big deal.
Yeah.
I can think
you're almost going to say cheating is not a big ideal. I really idealize cheating, but yeah.
But that's all based on what people's values are. Mm-hmm. Right? And so relationships can work based off of if you guys have the same sense of values. Right? If I value money differently than my relationship, my partner, my friend values money, then we may start fighting when he spends 10 grand of my money at the poker table, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wait, that's my money. It's not a big deal. We have beer in the room. What? That doesn't even make sense.
Right.
He doesn't have any sense of value.
Right. Yeah. Values are a tricky thing to describe, in part because what they're tapping into is this relative weight that we put on sort of different bits of our lives, different priorities that we make. But it's mushy because it covers everything. Your professional life, your social life, your love life, your family life. I mean, these should all be hopefully integrated anyway, but often they're not. And so when you're talking about what you value, well, it's interesting. It's like you talk to, let's say, a classmate, an old friend about what they value. What's not going to come up probably? Probably you're not going to talk about your religion too much because it's not in an overlapping, it doesn't intersect with what you have in common. Now you talk about your family, about what you value. I was recently back home with my parents. Actually, they've retired, right? So I went where they're hanging out. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the old times. We're talking about fun old times. We're having a good old time going to the swamp and looking at alligators and manatees. And I think that's fun. But I don't really consider that be interesting. It's that I remember doing those kinds of trips and stuff from childhood. And that's what that intersects with. Now, here's where it becomes challenging. You're talking about what you value with somebody who you hope to love, admire, cherish, or at least wet your wick with. Okay. Holy buckets, do you have a lot of conversing to do, because you're talking about a prospective lover. And your value misalignment is going to be the thing that makes you hate them, even though you want to sleep with them.
And you can hate them and sleep with them.
Oh, it's actually fun.
Yeah, but you can't hate them and marry them.
No. Well.
Oh, you could.
Well, you can. Been there.
You may not want to sleep with them again.
Yeah.
But values play a very important role to your happiness, your level of satisfaction with your relationship.
Yeah.
Value alignment, per se.
Yeah. And
you can actually predict divorce or lack of relationship satisfaction based off of an alignment in values.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that messed up? Because we know that you can predict failed relationships from a couple of things. Contempt, disgust with your partner. We know that that's sort of like in general. But values...
Really, what creates contempt? And what creates disgust? Or what creates differences in opinion on how to have conflict, how to argue?
I can't believe the way that fucking kid... He treats the kids so wrong. He treats the kids like... He spends his money on the worst stuff... I mean, what are we talking about? We are tacitly talking about values.
She won't just let me put it in her butt.
Well, now that's a deal breaker. That's not a value. That's a prerequisite.
That's staying in, by the way. Pun and all. So we get it. Values cause issues, okay?
Yeah.
They don't always have to cause issues, like in dating.
Yeah.
I can date someone that doesn't have the same values as me.
But as soon as you start doing that, I mean, you're probably going to be way less invested if your values misalign while you're dating.
Exactly, yes. Value misalignment just determines your level of investment in the relationship, and that's what you have to understand too. And you don't have to date someone with misaligned values. You may miss out on some awesome experiences and memories, because not everyone you meet are going to have aligned values, and sometimes it takes longer periods of time to discover that person's values. But just because someone doesn't have the same life goals as me doesn't mean that we aren't good at taking tequila shots together.
Right.
Awesome
right.
And awesome in bed together.
Right.
How to Start a Kinky Relationship by James Amaro is the definitive guide to successful alternative romantic relationships. The book has been called 50 Shades of Grey for Real People. Educational, informative, and irreverent, this book has something to offer anyone who is curious and sexually adventurous. Get your copy of How to Start a Kinky Relationship by James Amaro at Amazon.com or in select bookstores today.
Because dating someone doesn't mean you're going to marry someone. Fucking someone doesn't mean you have to date them. You just determine how you want to act within the relationship.
Now, if you do want to have a more serious relationship or prospectively marry this person, it will help you. It's incumbent upon the two of you to work out where your values are situated, particularly with the things that matter most in the relationship. Finances, kids, religion. I know we don't talk about that very often. Sexual compatibility and preferences, that we do talk about plenty, but we don't talk about sort of what is your envisioned home life. Now, with my ex-wife, who I was pretty invested in for a while there, she was Japanese born, and she came here to study and stay. And we were trying to have kids. We never did have kids. When it did actually reveal itself very late in our relationship, what kind of life we would have with children, she imagined taking them back to Japan and raising them there. And I said, oh, well, that comes as quite a shock.
I was surprised. I thought you were going to say sell them.
Yes, right,
market.
Sell them.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm happy you went the right way there, the right route.
Yeah, no, she hadn't mentioned that. Maybe it was later in the plan. But that was a big deal. And as young 20-somethings in love, we did not have the presence of mind to discuss it.
And most people don't have those discussions. They don't ask, let's say they're in an interfaith marriage, they don't say, do you want to baptize your child? Do you want to have a bar mitzvah for your child? Do you want to, they don't talk about specific religious events that may cause conflict within the relationship. Mm-hmm. And those are things that need to be discussed, communicated, discovered, understood.
Right.
If you're looking at a long-term investment, because that's what a marriage is, you're looking for compatibility.
And it's been the case culturally for a long time that we could bank on our compatibility in virtue of living geographically next to each other and sharing a common set of religious practices. That was the overtone, the cultural context. That was all we really needed.
Every family had the same rituals. Every family celebrated the same holidays. Your family members probably knew the people that you were...
Yeah, hell, you probably married someone you met at church or synagogue.
Other than your sister or brother.
Unless...
Done with the joke.
No, but true. You used to marry someone, you used to become permanently invested in someone up until, I think, the 80s, this was true, who lived within 5 miles of where you lived. It was geography that was the primary determinant of your available dating pool.
And interestingly enough, proximity is still the number one indicator of the person you're going to marry. And you could even still expand that into your value system, because where I live probably says something about my values, where I work, that the area that I'm in, the community that I'm in, because if I'm in the city, I probably value city life in some sense, or the neighborhood that I'm in.
Yeah.
And the places that I go to, if I go to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, or if I work in a hospital, I probably, there's some similarities that can come from proximity.
It's very telling. I mean, at Whole Foods, you eat your values. I mean, there is something where if you meet someone at Whole Foods, you come to believe things, maybe because you're projecting, about who they are as a person. And frankly, that's as good as we got when we're starting. So you date somebody who you think might be, right? You're thinking, well, okay, I don't know much about this person, but they seem like they're good on paper. Maybe they're relationship material. Then what you got to do, this is where it gets hard, then what you got to do is talk to them about values without making it seem like you're interrogating them about whether or not they have papers. I mean, it becomes really tricky not to become the Gestapo.
You sit them across the table. How many kids do you want?
Yes, right.
How do you want to raise them?
Right? Yeah.
What's your religion?
Yeah, yeah.
Really. Or even how they grew up. It's pretty telling how a person grew up, what their values are.
You bet. Oh, you bet.
So how do you uncover these value belief systems?
Well, simply you sit them down and you give them a form. It's about 40 pages. It's a little bit simpler than the healthcare.gov information.
And you charge them a fee.
Yes, right.
Because if they're going to take
processing
your time,
fee. Right.
you hire an intern to read through all your values and rank them according to their value systems.
The Essentials by Benjamin Ritter is your concise manual for life improvement and success with women. The Essentials has been called a straight-to-the-point lesson in the lost art of being a man. Packed with insights, this book will transform the way you think about dating and relationships. Get your copy of The Essentials by Benjamin Ritter at Amazon.com or in select bookstores today.
No, you know what's hard is if you're searching in the dark and you don't know what your values are, there you've handicapped yourself. I mean, the first thing is you've got to have a sense as to what your priorities are. Let's say you've got a top 5. Let's say your values, do you have a rough sense of the things that you value as a person, as an individual, character?
Yeah, I think
traits?
it's important. I've actually undergone a value discovery activity.
Great.
Where I sat down and asked myself what my values were and then prioritized them based on what they meant to me.
I'll throw out a couple that I think will illustrate a point, because, I mean, you get a sense as yours. Two of mine, and they help with me relating to other people. Contribution. It really matters to me to do things, to contribute things, to do more than I consume. That makes a difference to me. And honesty. If I misspeak, I try to correct it. I try not to lie, deceive, intentionally delete. So when I meet people where those values are misaligned, I struggle tremendously. Do you want to know how many women I've dated where those values weren't even in their top 100? Holy buckets, those are tough girls for me. Now, you may have no problem with the girl who is able to tell stories. I don't mind. You may have no problem with the girl whose ambition level is right about the 0 point of the universe. I don't mind, but they trouble me. And now that I know that, I can have conversations with girls that make a lot more sense.
How did you discover that these women maybe didn't contribute or they were dishonest?
Hard, right? But you have to spend some time with her, right? So you start...
You're basically sharing experiences and kind of seeing what they do, what their lifestyle is like, maybe even kind of what their friends are like. Because we tend to like to have people in our social groups that have similar values to us. We like that comfortability and that feeling of alignment. And so if you look at someone's lifestyle, usually it's in line with their values. Usually. Not always. No. If it's not, then you can see some pretty conflicting issues in their life. In your own life, if you're acting not in accords to your values, you will have some big issues and you will feel conflicted and you may be depressed. You may be just struggling just in general. The person may be depressed and they seem a little off because they're just not in line with their own internal sense of being. Yeah, right. Sure. Uncovering the values of another person can often occur sort of tacitly if you know what you're looking for. We often small talk and make observations about other people, judgments, critique, comments about other people in an effort to bond. I mean, that is what gossip is. Small talk and gossip about other people. Can you believe Julie from The Office? I mean, when you hear that, what two women are doing is relating to each other, not to Julie. They'll be pointing out things that they themselves probably just don't agree with completely. Probably passing judgment, and that's what's going on there. And so if you small talk a little bit and you know what you're looking for, talk about the world, talk about politics or circumstances or what you would like to be or where you would like to be. This is big talk, small talk. This is the kind of talk where you are hopefully tapping into some of the sort of zeitgeist themes or the issues that will drive you forward for the next couple of years. And then pay attention to what she says about other people. Because she's usually revealing what she believes about them, where she values them, what she values in other people, and presumably, by extension, what she might value in herself. They're not always perfect, but it's a pretty telling... And then you can say, hey, do you think that people who are good people
do X? Or do you think people should Y? And when she starts saying, yeah, or she goes, oh no, I know, I just, that's not me. I don't think that at all. People, let them all do whatever. Then you know that much about her.
The more you share with someone, even just experiences, just going out with them, and the more you have those conversations, the more you bring up topics like that, like world topics or situations in other countries or topics in the news right now, and you can really reveal their values.
If what they talk about is bands and TV shows, and they have no idea that Greece is going through an economic crisis, now you know things about them and what their priorities are. If their primary source of news is Us Weekly, okay, I don't want to sit next to her for any length of time.
Oh, I know
but
people,
you may, and I don't. That's good for you. You just need to know that about yourself.
I know people that literally will wake up, watch their 8 recorded reality TV shows, and then go work a mindless job and come home and have nothing to discuss other than other people's relationships and reality TV. It's very telling about their drive, what their where their interests are.
Sure.
Maybe even their future financial stability, what their belief systems are. It's just people don't hide a lot of times what their values are. It just takes a little bit of attention and a little bit of digging to figure out what they are.
How the fuck can you sit and watch a reality show or follow it? All I can ever do is binge watch Shameless once a year. Other than that, I can't stand plunking in front of a TV for any length of time.
I actually hope sometimes that I get a cold or something, that I just have to lay in bed and watch TV. It's the only time I'm actually okay.
Catch up with all the Kardashians?
Watching 20 in a row. The only time I've ever watched reality TV is when I was dating someone that watched reality TV.
Well, there you have it, and that probably was a comfortable place to be. I mean, I've sat on the couch and watched TV with, I think distinctively of a gal who we sat and watched TV partly because the relationship was very brief and we really didn't have much else to do. We watched some TV, we drank some wine, we made some lovin', and we did that for a little while until we were like, yeah, guess whose values don't align? Yours and mine. Yours and mine.
Let's say some of my friends, they will go to the gym.
Yeah.
Go to the salon. Go to the tanning bed.
Yeah. Laundry, gym tan, laundry.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And that's a big disconnect for me.
Yeah.
Because health really is up there, right? Health and taking care of yourself is up there in my value system. And right below that is openness and being intellectual and being sexual and being driven. So you can have one value and not 2 and 3 and 4, and it's just not going to work.
Well, this is tricky. I've always found this to be sort of a subtle but important point. If you have a collection of values, like your top 3 or 4 is a good starting point, and your partner has a top 3 or 4 set of values, those don't have to match, but here's the important point. They can't interfere.
Yeah.
That's really important. Like if you're sexual, okay, here's a great example. Good friend of mine who I helped do, I wound up coaching him, giving him some advice to his current fiance. Yeah, thank you.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
You can't see that, listeners, but I gave a thumbs up.
He found that their sex drive were very different, not in the usual way. She could have sex day or night any old time, and he was comfortable with once a week. He had gotten acclimated to that in his previous relationship. I knew her very well. They were just not sexual. That wasn't a thing. So my advice to him was, you don't always have to fuck, but you have to eroticize your encounters way more. And dude, I know you very well. You're a cerebral dude. You're not a romantic. You're going to have to fake this a little bit. You're going to have to give her a little bit of romance theater. And he's like, it just seems so... I said, or find a better girl. He goes, well, I really like her. I said, I know you guys are compatible in so many different ways, but the sexuality thing is really... It's best as I can tell, it's your deal breaker between the two of you. So he was visiting Chicago. He texted her, back where he's from. He texted her immediately. Some touchstone where he was doing callback references to some sexual event that reminded, I wish you were here with me, rather than I got in safely, boring shit. And boy, did she warm up to that. And it was a couple weeks later that they were really, really close, and a couple of months later that they decided that they really wanted to waste the rest of their lives together. And now I commend him on making that poor choice. Commit to one person forever. Oh, gross.
And sometimes, if a person does align with some of your values, communicate and compromise on some of the other ones.
Sure.
And sexuality sometimes is a big value that people compromise on, but not communicate about.
That's the
issue.
That's the killer. That's the killer. Right, you can compromise, but you got to make sure that you're not compromising on a deal breaker. Or you'll have an affair. And you'll ruin everybody's life.
With a dolphin.
I was thinking Petraeus fucking your biographer, but a dolphin? Okay.
You saw the YouTube video, right?
I did not see the dolphin YouTube
The
video.
guy that had, like, the 6-year-old that he had an affair with a dolphin, you put it on YouTube.
What else would you do with that information, I guess, now that I
This
think
guy
of it.
came out and said he loves the dolphin, and he's been consummating that love a lot.
Well, I have very progressive attitudes about marriage, but this interspecies thing I'm going to have to puzzle on a little bit. I'm not sure where I stand on that.
Values aligned.
Yeah, right.
They really like swimming.
They both have a thing for tuna.
You have been listening to the Suave Lover podcast. Visit suavelover.com to become the kind of man that women crave.